Welcome, friends, both long-time listeners and new arrivals. Tonight, we journey together to the windswept fjords of ancient Scandinavia, where life was governed by honor and survival, daily routines were shaped by the rhythm of seasons, and the nights could be both sanctuary and trial. As you settle in, imagine the steady crackle of a central hearth, the howling northern wind outside, and the slow, deliberate rhythm of existence in a world far removed from modern comforts. The Viking lands were not a single realm but a collection of harsh landscapes, ice-locked fjords, windswept islands, dense pine forests, and fertile valleys carved by ancient glaciers. Norse families who carved out their existence in these remote settlements did so seeking honor, prosperity, and the freedom to live by their own laws. Yet with this freedom came the stark reality of nature's dominion, where winter darkness could last for months, storms could destroy crops in a single night, and even the strongest warrior needed deep, restorative sleep to survive. Life in the Viking Age followed a rhythm dictated by light and darkness, work and rest, community and solitude. Days were spent wielding axes and hammers, tending livestock, weaving wool, and crafting the tools that sustained life, while evenings were devoted to storytelling, the maintenance of weapons and household goods, and the gradual preparation for what the Norse called effortlessly, the first sleep that would carry them through the night's darkest hours. Viking households developed routines that were as much about preparing for rest as they were about daily survival. They understood that sleep was not something to be conquered or controlled, but rather cultivated through the careful arrangement of their environment, their bodies, and their minds. Fires were banked not just for warmth but for the gentle light that would guide them safely into slumber. Every evening ritual, no matter how simple, served the greater purpose of creating conditions where sleep could emerge as naturally as the changing tides. In these ancient settlements, the night was never entirely safe or predictable. Bears might prowl the edges of the community, bitter cold could penetrate even the sturdiest longhouse, and illness could spread quickly in the close quarters of communal living. Yet even in these harsh conditions, families found ways to not just survive but thrive in their sleep. Children learned to recognize the signs of approaching rest as naturally as they learned to read weather patterns. Parents taught lessons of preparation, how to layer bedding for warmth, time meals to support sleep, and use the gifts of forest and field to encourage peaceful slumber. Every practice was deliberate, measured, and carefully passed from one generation to the next. The amber glow of the central hearth cast dancing shadows across the longhouse walls as Thorvald the shipbuilder set down his carving knife. Outside, the Norwegian fjord lay shrouded in winter darkness, but inside his dwelling, warmth radiated from the crackling fire. Around him, 15 members of his household began their evening preparations, not the frantic rush to bed that characterizes modern life, but the gentle transition into what the Norse called effortlessly, the first sleep. Thorvald's weathered hands, still bearing the calluses from shaping oak planks and hammering iron rivets, traced the intricate dragon head he'd been carving. His muscles carried the pleasant ache of a day spent in meaningful labor under the pale winter sun. As darkness settled over Trondheim like a familiar blanket, he felt something that modern humans have largely forgotten, the natural, irresistible pull toward sleep that emerges when the body has been properly spent and darkness claims the world. "Tell us of Jormungandr again, grandfather," whispered young Eric, his eyelids growing heavy but his curiosity still bright. The old man's voice rumbled through the smoky air like distant thunder as he began the familiar tale of the world serpent. One by one, the listeners drifted toward the raised wooden platforms that lined the longhouse walls, their bodies surrendering naturally to sleep's embrace without the anxiety, pills, or sleep-tracking devices that plague our modern nights. This scene, replayed countless times across Viking settlements from the ice-locked fjords of Iceland to the windswept coasts of Denmark, represents something extraordinary in human history, perhaps the most naturally restorative sleep our species has ever achieved. While contemporary humans struggle with epidemic levels of insomnia, sleep anxiety, and chronic fatigue despite our advanced sleep science and pharmaceutical interventions, archaeological evidence and historical records reveal that Vikings enjoyed effortless, rejuvenating sleep that emerged organically from their way of life. The foundation of Viking sleep superiority begins with understanding their natural rhythm, a pattern so different from our modern obsession with 8 consecutive hours that it initially seems alien. Vikings practiced what sleep historians now call bifphasic or segmented sleep, 2 distinct sleep periods separated by a peaceful interlude of wakefulness. The Old Norse language preserves this ancient pattern in its very vocabulary. Första svefn meant first sleep, while andra svefn referred to second sleep. These weren't arbitrary cultural constructs but linguistic fossils of humanity's natural sleep architecture, disrupted only when artificial lighting began flooding our nights with unnatural brightness. Bjorn Haraldsson, a prosperous farmer whose holdings stretched across fertile valleys near Trondheim, embodied this rhythm perfectly. After the evening meal and communal storytelling around the central hearth, Bjorn would settle onto his sleeping platform around sunset, approximately 7 p.m. during the long northern winters. His first sleep lasted roughly 4 hours of deep, uninterrupted slumber, the kind of restorative rest that modern sleep labs measure in slow-wave delta frequencies. Then, like clockwork, somewhere between midnight and 2 a.m., Bjorn would naturally awaken, not with the groggy confusion that characterizes modern midnight disturbances, but with a calm, peaceful alertness that felt as natural as breathing. This wasn't insomnia or sleep disorder, it was his body following its ancient biological programming. During this midnight interlude, lasting 1 to 2 hours, Bjorn might quietly repair farming tools by the dying firelight, check on his pregnant mare in the stable, or engage in intimate conversation with his wife Sigrid. Archaeological evidence from excavations at Jorvik, modern York, reveals the sophistication of nighttime activities, intricate needlework, complex wood carvings, and detailed metalwork that could only be accomplished during these focused, undisturbed hours. Modern sleep researcher Roger Ekirch spent 16 years documenting this lost sleep pattern, discovering that segmented sleep was the norm throughout human history until the Industrial Revolution. During the natural midnight waking period, the body produces a surge of prolactin, a hormone associated with feelings of peace and satisfaction. Vikings weren't fighting their biology, they were living in perfect harmony with it. The Grettis saga provides literary evidence of this practice, describing how the legendary hero Grettir would wake in the night's middle hours to conduct important business, sharpen weapons, or compose poetry before returning to his second sleep until dawn. This wasn't sleep disruption, it was sleep's natural architecture, as regular and predictable as the tides. Gudrun, a master weaver from a Danish coastal settlement, exemplified the productive beauty of these midnight hours. Archaeological analysis of textile remains suggests that many of the most intricate Viking fabrics, those complex patterns that required extraordinary skill and concentration, were created during the peaceful alertness of the midnight waking period. Modern textile artists attempting to recreate these patterns confirm that such detailed work demands the focused quiet that only nighttime hours could provide. This segmented pattern adapted brilliantly to the extreme seasonal variations of northern latitudes. During winter's extended darkness, Vikings could luxuriate in longer sleep periods, their bodies naturally extending both the first and second sleep phases. The Hávamál, that ancient collection of Norse wisdom, advised moderation in sleep, not because rest was viewed as laziness, but because the culture understood that excessive sleep, like insufficient sleep, disrupted the natural balance that promoted health and vitality. Summer presented different challenges. During the nightless nights, when the sun barely set, Vikings developed sophisticated strategies for managing their sleep cycles. They hung heavy wool curtains and created sleeping nooks deep within turf-walled buildings, using architectural solutions to create artificial darkness when nature provided none. Perhaps no single factor contributed more to Viking sleep superiority than their relationship with genuine darkness. Modern humans live in a state of perpetual twilight, surrounded by LED lights, computer screens, street lamps, and the electronic glow of digital clocks. Even our dark bedrooms would seem blazingly bright to Viking eyes, and this constant light pollution represents one of the most devastating disruptions to human sleep in our species' history. Archaeological excavations of Viking dwellings reveal structures deliberately designed to maximize darkness. Windows were small and few, covered with oiled animal skins or wooden shutters that blocked virtually all external light. The central hearth provided the dwelling's primary illumination, creating a warm pool of flickering light that gradually faded to complete darkness at the room's edges. Leif the fisherman, whose weathered hands knew every current and wind pattern along the Bergen coast, experienced something modern humans rarely achieve: true circadian alignment. As sunset approached each day, Leif's pineal gland began producing melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep-wake cycles, in response to genuine darkness. Without artificial lighting to suppress this natural process, his melatonin levels could rise to optimal concentrations, creating the irresistible drowsiness that guided him naturally towards sleep. Modern research has revealed the devastating impact of artificial light on melatonin production. Exposure to bright light after sunset, particularly the blue wavelengths emitted by electronic devices, can suppress melatonin by up to 90%. Vikings, living by firelight and candle flame, experienced no such disruption. Their melatonin production followed its ancient rhythm, rising steadily after sunset and maintaining high levels throughout the night. The artificial lighting available to Vikings was both limited and sleep-friendly. Fires, oil lamps, and candles produced only 5 to 20 lumens of illumination, barely enough to read by modern standards, compared to the 800 to 1,500 lumens common in contemporary LED lighting. More importantly, these light sources emitted primarily yellow and red wavelengths, which have minimal impact on melatonin production compared to the blue light that dominates modern illumination. Cultural restraint also played a crucial role. The Hávamál advised careful resource management, and fuel for lighting was precious. Vikings used artificial light judiciously, creating a natural rhythm where bright illumination was reserved for essential tasks, while most evening activities occurred in the gentle glow of firelight or complete darkness. This relationship with darkness created extraordinary biological advantages. During the long northern winters, Vikings could experience 12 to 16 hours of optimal melatonin production, a hormonal environment that modern humans achieve only with pharmaceutical intervention or extreme light management protocols. Leif, fishing the dark waters of winter, would return home to a dwelling that supported rather than disrupted his body's natural preparation for sleep. Summer presented unique challenges that Vikings met with ingenious adaptations. During the white nights, when the sun barely set, households hung thick wool curtains and created sleeping alcoves deep within turf-walled structures. The Egil's saga describes these specialized sleeping arrangements, noting how wealthy families constructed closed beds, box-like structures that could be completely darkened even during the midnight sun. Vikings also understood lunar cycles in ways modern humans have forgotten. Archaeological evidence reveals sophisticated lunar calendars that tracked moon phases, and saga literature frequently references how full moons affected sleep patterns and behavior. Rather than fighting these natural rhythms, Viking culture adapted to them, scheduling different activities for different lunar phases and adjusting sleep expectations accordingly. Modern sleep occurs in isolation, behind locked doors, in private bedrooms, often with a single person lying alone in darkness. This architectural privacy, which we consider normal and desirable, would have seemed deeply unnatural and psychologically distressing to Vikings, who understood that sleep is fundamentally more restorative when it occurs within the protective embrace of trusted community. Archaeological excavations reveal that Viking longhouses were designed around communal sleeping arrangements that prioritized both security and social connection. The magnificent longhouse discovered at Stong in Iceland shows the typical pattern: raised wooden sleeping platforms running along both walls, with the central hearth providing warmth and light. These platforms, constructed from split logs or carefully fitted planks, were elevated 40 to 60 centimeters above the floor and measured 1.5 to 2 meters wide, broad enough to accommodate multiple sleepers. Gunnar Hamundarsson's household, immortalized in Njál's saga, exemplified the sophisticated social organization of communal sleep. His longhouse sheltered 15 to 20 people during winter months, arranged according to a clear hierarchy that balanced status recognition with practical considerations. Gunnar and his wife occupied the position of highest honor nearest the central hearth, where they enjoyed maximum warmth and could monitor the household's activities. Children, relatives, servants, and seasonal workers were arranged along the platforms according to their status and relationship to the household head. This arrangement provided immediate practical benefits that modern sleep science has only recently begun to understand. The communal sleeping area functioned as a natural early warning system against threats. If one person woke to unusual sounds or potential dangers, the entire household could be alerted within seconds. Saga literature frequently describes how this collective vigilance saved lives during night attacks or natural disasters. The psychological benefits of communal sleeping were equally profound. Modern research has demonstrated that humans sleep more deeply and restoratively when they feel secure and protected. The presence of trusted family members and companions reduced the hypervigilance that characterizes anxious sleep, allowing the nervous system to fully relax into deep, restorative sleep cycles. Children particularly benefited from these arrangements. Instead of learning to associate sleep with isolation and separation, as often occurs in modern nuclear families, Viking children experienced sleep as a warm, secure, social activity surrounded by the protective presence of their extended family. This early programming likely contributed to healthier sleep patterns throughout their lives. Privacy concerns were addressed through ingenious solutions that maintained security while allowing for intimate relationships. Archaeological excavations at Coppergate in York have revealed evidence of textile dividers and curtain systems that could create temporary private spaces within the communal sleeping area. Wealthy families sometimes constructed closed beds, essentially wooden boxes large enough for two people, with doors or curtains that could be closed for complete privacy while maintaining connection to the larger household. The midnight waking period provided additional opportunities for privacy and intimacy. During these quiet hours, couples could engage in private conversation or intimate relations while the rest of the household slept peacefully around them. Rather than disrupting sleep, these activities often enhanced the quality of the second sleep period through the release of oxytocin and other hormones associated with pair bonding and relaxation. Status distinctions were carefully maintained within the communal sleeping arrangement without compromising its essential security functions. The Chieftain's Hall excavated at Borg in the Lofoten Islands shows how wealthy households created architectural distinctions, raised platforms for high-status individuals, superior bedding materials, and proximity to the central hearth, while preserving the communal arrangement that benefited everyone's sleep quality. Seasonal variations added another layer of sophistication to these sleeping arrangements. During harsh winters, the entire household might cluster closely around the central hearth, sharing body heat and creating an almost nest-like environment of warmth and security. Summer months allowed for more dispersed sleeping, with some household members moving to outbuildings or even sleeping outdoors under the stars, but always within calling distance of the main group. The Viking approach to creating sleep surfaces reveals an intuitive understanding of ergonomics and materials science that modern sleep research has validated with scientific precision. Rather than the soft, conforming mattresses that characterize contemporary bedding, Vikings created sleeping surfaces that provided optimal spinal support, temperature regulation, and hygiene through carefully layered natural materials. The foundation of Viking sleep began with the sleeping platform itself, a raised wooden structure that lifted sleepers 40 to 60 centimeters above the floor. Archaeological excavations at settlements like Fjords in Denmark reveal the sophisticated construction of these platforms, split logs or carefully fitted planks arranged with a slight incline toward the wall. This gentle angle, barely perceptible to the sleeper, provided natural drainage and air circulation while elevating the head slightly to prevent acid reflux, a design principle that modern sleep specialists recommend for optimal health. The bedding system consisted of 3 distinct layers, each serving specific functions validated by contemporary sleep science. The base layer utilized locally harvested straw or hay, replaced seasonally to maintain freshness and structural integrity. This natural material provided ideal support characteristics, firm enough to maintain spinal alignment, yet flexible enough to accommodate the body's natural contours. The organic structure of straw created countless air pockets that enhanced breathability and prevented the moisture buildup that promotes mold, mildew, and dust mites. Modern sleep researchers have confirmed that medium-firm surfaces, exactly what straw bedding provided, offer optimal support for spinal health and sleep quality. Too soft surfaces allow the spine to sag into unnatural curves, creating pressure points and muscle tension that disrupt sleep. Too firm surfaces create pressure points at the hips and shoulders, reducing circulation and causing frequent position changes that fragment sleep cycles. The straw layer achieved the perfect balance that contemporary mattress manufacturers spend millions trying to replicate. The middle layer consisted of woolen materials, typically the sturdy Hávamál cloth that Vikings wove from their hardy sheep. Wool possesses extraordinary properties that make it ideal for sleep environments. Its natural lanolin content provides water resistance while maintaining breathability. Wool fibers can absorb up to 30% of their weight in moisture without feeling damp, wicking perspiration away from the body while maintaining insulation properties. This natural temperature regulation prevented the overheating that disrupts sleep cycles while providing warmth during cold northern nights. Astrid, the wife of a prosperous farmer near Trondheim, exemplified the sophisticated understanding of bedding materials that Viking women possessed. She carefully selected wool from different sheep and seasons, understanding that spring wool offered different properties than autumn fleeces. Her Hávamál cloth was woven to specific densities that balanced insulation with breathability, creating bedding systems perfectly adapted to seasonal temperature variations. The top layer featured animal furs and skins that provided both luxury and function. Archaeological evidence from the Oseberg and Mammon burial sites reveals the variety of pelts used: bear skins for maximum warmth, wolf furs for their dense insulation, fox pelts for their softness, and sheep skins for everyday use. These materials offered superior insulation properties while maintaining the breathability essential for comfortable sleep. Modern sleep science has validated the temperature regulation benefits of natural materials. The human body's core temperature naturally drops 1 to 2 degrees during sleep onset, a process essential for triggering drowsiness and maintaining deep sleep cycles. Synthetic materials often trap heat and moisture, preventing this natural temperature decline and causing sleep disruption. The layered natural materials in Viking bedding facilitated optimal temperature regulation without the need for complex climate control systems. Head support followed similar principles of natural ergonomics. Rather than the soft, conforming pillows popular today, Vikings used firm leather or wool cushions stuffed with feathers, wool, or moss. Archaeological discoveries at Coppergate include well-preserved leather cushions that demonstrate the sophisticated craftsmanship involved in creating these sleep accessories. Modern chiropractic and sleep research has confirmed that firm pillow support maintains better cervical spine alignment than soft pillows that allow the head to sink excessively. The Viking approach prevented the neck strain and morning stiffness that often result from poor pillow choice, contributing to the overall quality and restfulness of their sleep. The shared sleeping arrangements common in Viking households provided additional benefits for sleep surface effectiveness. Multiple bodies on a single platform distributed weight more evenly, preventing the sagging and indentations that develop in modern single-person mattresses. The combined body heat of multiple sleepers created natural temperature regulation, reducing the need for excessive bedding layers that could cause overheating. Long before pharmaceutical sleep aids, Vikings had developed a sophisticated understanding of plant-based medicines that promoted restful sleep. Archaeological evidence reveals that Viking healers possessed extensive knowledge of herbs and their effects on sleep and relaxation, knowledge that modern pharmacology has validated with remarkable precision. Excavations at Jorvik, Dublin, and other major Viking settlements have uncovered preserved seeds, pollen samples, and specialized containers that reveal the scope of Viking herbal medicine. The dwelling near Tromsø identified as belonging to a healer contained evidence of valerian, hops, linden flowers, chamomile, and other plants now recognized for their sleep-promoting properties. Thora, a renowned healer in Roskilde, exemplified the sophisticated approach to herbal sleep medicine that characterized Viking healing practices. Her knowledge, passed down through generations of women healers, combined empirical observation with what modern science recognizes as sound pharmacological principles. Valerian, Valeriana officinalis, formed the cornerstone of Viking sleep medicine. This hardy perennial, which grows wild throughout Scandinavia, contains valerianic acid and other compounds that modern research has shown to modulate GABA receptors in the brain, the same mechanism targeted by modern pharmaceutical sleep aids. Vikings prepared valerian as tea, tinctures, and even smoked preparations, understanding intuitively that different preparation methods provided different intensities and durations of effect. Hops, Humulus lupulus, now famous for beer brewing, were equally valued for their sleep-inducing properties. The climbing vine contains methylbutanol and other compounds that produce mild sedative effects. Archaeological evidence suggests that Vikings used hops not only in brewing but also in sleep pillows and herbal preparations specifically designed to promote rest. The dual use of hops in both beer production and sleep medicine reflects the Viking understanding that mild sedation could be therapeutic when properly applied. Linden or lime flowers, Tilia species, provided gentler sleep support, particularly suitable for children and elderly household members. These fragrant blossoms contain flavonoids that modern research has confirmed possess anxiolytic, anxiety-reducing, properties. Vikings prepared linden flower tea as an evening drink, often sweetened with honey to enhance both palatability and sleep-promoting effects. Chamomile, Matricaria chamomilla, grew in Viking herb gardens throughout Scandinavia, valued for its gentle sleep-promoting properties. The flowers contain apigenin, a compound that binds to benzodiazepine receptors in the brain, producing mild sedative effects without the dependency risks associated with modern pharmaceutical sleep aids. Viking preparation methods, primarily as infusions and decoctions, preserved these active compounds effectively. The sophistication of Viking herbal medicine extended beyond individual plant knowledge to understanding of preparation methods, dosage, timing, and seasonal variations. Healers like Thora understood that herbs harvested at different times of year possessed different potencies, and that preparation methods dramatically affected therapeutic outcomes. Alcoholic tinctures concentrated the active compounds in plants, creating more potent preparations for severe sleep disorders. Vikings possessed advanced brewing and distillation knowledge that they applied to herbal medicine, creating alcohol-based extractions that remained potent for months or years. Herbal pillows and sachets placed near sleeping areas provided gentle aromatherapeutic effects throughout the night. Archaeological evidence from York and other sites includes textile fragments that once contained aromatic herbs, suggesting that Vikings understood the benefits of sustained, low-level exposure to sleep-promoting compounds. The ritualistic and cultural dimensions of herbal sleep medicine provided additional benefits that modern medicine often overlooks. The preparation of evening herbal drinks became a soothing bedtime ritual that helped signal the body's transition toward sleep. The placebo effects generated by cultural belief in herbal efficacy enhanced the pharmacological benefits of the plants themselves. Vikings understood seasonal variations in both herb potency and human sleep needs. Winter preparations tended to feature milder herbs like chamomile and linden, reflecting the natural increase in sleep duration during dark months. Summer remedies often incorporated stronger sedatives like valerian and hops to counteract the challenges of sleeping during extended daylight. The safety profile of traditional herbal sleep aids far exceeded that of modern pharmaceutical alternatives. Vikings rotated their use of different herbs to prevent tolerance, understanding intuitively what modern medicine has confirmed, that natural compounds work best when used intermittently rather than continuously. Most importantly, Viking herbal sleep medicine was integrated into a comprehensive approach to sleep health that addressed environment, diet, exercise, and psychological factors. The herbs supported and enhanced the sleep-promoting effects of darkness, communal security, physical exhaustion, and proper nutrition rather than serving as isolated pharmaceutical interventions. The Viking approach to food timing, composition, and preparation created optimal conditions for restful sleep through nutritional strategies that modern science has validated as fundamentally sound. Unlike contemporary eating patterns that often disrupt sleep through late meals, excessive sugar, and poor nutrient timing, Viking dietary practices naturally supported their body's circadian rhythms and sleep architecture. Halfdan, a prosperous farmer whose land stretched across fertile valleys near Trondheim, exemplified the Viking approach to meal timing that promoted excellent sleep. His household followed the traditional pattern of two main meals, dagvor, day meal, consumed in mid-morning after the most important work was completed, and nvur, night meal, eaten in late afternoon or early evening, crucially, 3 to 4 hours before sleep. This meal timing provided significant advantages for sleep quality that modern research has confirmed. Eating large meals close to bedtime disrupts sleep through multiple mechanisms. Increased metabolic activity raises core body temperature when it should be declining for sleep onset. Digestive processes create internal noise that can fragment sleep cycles, and blood sugar fluctuations can cause early morning awakenings. By finishing their final meal hours before sleep, Vikings avoided these disruptions entirely. The nutritional composition of Viking meals provided additional sleep benefits through specific compounds that promote restful sleep. High protein intake from fish, meat, and dairy products supplied abundant tryptophan, the amino acid precursor to serotonin and melatonin production. Unlike modern diets heavy in processed foods and simple sugars, Viking protein sources provided sustained tryptophan availability that supported natural neurotransmitter production throughout the night. Marine-derived nutrition played a crucial role in Viking sleep quality. Fatty fish like herring, mackerel, and salmon provided exceptional concentrations of omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA and EPA, which modern research has linked to improved sleep efficiency and deeper slow-wave sleep phases. These same fish provided vitamin D, often deficient in northern populations, which plays crucial roles in sleep regulation and circadian rhythm maintenance. Complex carbohydrates from barley, rye, and oats provided sustained energy release that prevented the blood sugar crashes that can cause middle-of-the-night awakenings. These whole grains also supplied magnesium, B vitamins, and other micronutrients essential for nervous system function and sleep regulation. Oats, in particular, contain natural melatonin and compounds that support the body's own melatonin production. The Viking diet included naturally fermented foods that provided additional sleep benefits through their impact on gut health and neurotransmitter production. Skyr, the fermented dairy product that remains popular in Iceland, contains probiotics that produce GABA, the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter in the brain that promotes relaxation and sleep. Fermented fish preparations enhance the bioavailability of omega-3 fatty acids while providing additional probiotic benefits. Sourdough bread, prepared through wild fermentation processes, offered advantages over modern commercial breads through reduced phytic acid content and increased mineral availability. The long fermentation process broke down compounds that can interfere with mineral absorption, making the bread's magnesium, zinc, and B vitamins more bioavailable for nervous system function. Honey served as the primary sweetener in Viking diets, providing advantages over refined sugars that can disrupt sleep. Raw honey contains trace amounts of melatonin and compounds that support the body's own melatonin production. Unlike refined sugar, which causes rapid blood sugar spikes and crashes, honey provides more sustained energy release that doesn't interfere with sleep cycles. Seasonal dietary variations align naturally with changing sleep needs throughout the year. Winter diets emphasized preserved and fermented foods with higher concentrations of sleep-supporting compounds. Fermented fish, aged cheeses, and preserved meats provided concentrated sources of tryptophan and other amino acids that supported sleep during the long, dark months when natural light was minimal. Summer diets incorporated fresh vegetables, berries, and herbs that provided antioxidants supporting natural melatonin production. Many plants produced their highest concentrations of sleep-supporting compounds during summer months, when Vikings needed additional help managing sleep during extended daylight hours. Hydration patterns also supported healthy sleep cycles. Vikings consumed water, whey-based drinks, and low-alcohol alesh throughout the day but avoided large liquid intake before sleep to prevent nighttime awakening for urination. The low alcohol content of their alesh, 2 to 3% compared to modern beers at 4 to 7%, provided mild relaxation benefits without the sleep disruption caused by higher alcohol concentrations. When alcohol was consumed in larger quantities, typically during feasts and celebrations, these events occurred earlier in the day, allowing time for metabolism before sleep. Vikings understood intuitively what modern research has confirmed, that while alcohol may initially promote sleep onset, it significantly disrupts sleep quality and architecture when consumed close to bedtime. The Viking relationship with physical activity created the kind of natural, deep fatigue that promotes exceptional sleep quality, a stark contrast to the sedentary lifestyles that characterize modern life and contribute significantly to our epidemic sleep problems. Archaeological evidence reveals that Vikings engaged in precisely the types and intensities of physical activity that sleep researchers now recognize as optimal for promoting restorative sleep. Skeletal analysis of Viking remains shows remarkable muscle development and bone density across all social classes, indicating that even wealthy individuals engaged in significant physical labor. The muscle attachment points visible on Viking bones reveal patterns of resistance activity, heavy lifting, construction work, tool manipulation, combined with aerobic exercise through rowing, farming, and long-distance walking that created ideal conditions for sleep. Gunnar, a master shipbuilder whose workshop overlooked the harbor at Bergen, exemplified the Viking approach to physical activity that naturally promoted excellent sleep. His days began at dawn with the selection and preparation of oak timbers, work that required significant strength and endurance as he maneuvered massive logs and shaped them with hand tools. The resistance exercise of splitting planks, hammering rivets, and lifting heavy structural elements provided the kind of muscle fatigue that promotes deep, slow-wave sleep phases. The aerobic demands of Viking life were equally sleep-promoting. Rowing the sturdy vessels that enabled Viking expansion required sustained cardiovascular effort that modern sleep research has identified as optimal for sleep quality. Studies show that aerobic exercise increases the percentage of deep sleep while reducing the time needed to fall asleep, exactly the pattern that would have characterized Viking sleep after days spent rowing across Nordic waters. Outdoor activity provided additional benefits through natural light exposure that regulated circadian rhythms. Unlike modern workers who spend most daylight hours indoors under artificial lighting, Vikings conducted virtually all their activities outdoors or in buildings with large openings that provided abundant natural light exposure. This light exposure, particularly during morning hours, helped maintain robust circadian rhythms that promoted natural sleep onset after sunset. Experimental archaeology projects have attempted to replicate Viking physical demands, revealing the extraordinary energy expenditure required for their daily activities. Participants in these projects, living and working using authentic Viking methods, typically burn 3,000 to 4,000 calories daily, nearly double the energy expenditure of modern sedentary lifestyles. This high energy expenditure created the deep physical fatigue that makes sleep not just desirable but absolutely necessary for recovery. The timing of Viking physical activity aligned perfectly with circadian principles that promote healthy sleep. Heavy work occurred during morning and midday hours when body temperature and alertness naturally peak. Evening activities gradually decreased in intensity, allowing body temperature and arousal levels to decline naturally toward sleep onset. Astrid, whose household responsibilities included grinding grain, spinning thread, and managing livestock, experienced the benefits of varied physical activity throughout the day. Her work provided both resistance exercise through grinding and lifting, and continuous low-level activity that maintained elevated metabolism without causing the excessive fatigue that can actually impair sleep quality. Rest and recovery practices were integrated into Viking culture in ways that supported rather than undermined physical activity benefits. The Yule period represented a culturally sanctioned time of reduced activity during the darkest winter months, allowing for recovery and restoration that prepared the body for renewed activity as daylight returned. Bathing practices, evidenced by the sophisticated bathhouses found at Viking sites, provided additional recovery benefits that enhanced sleep quality. The practice of alternating hot baths with cold exposure, documented in both archaeological remains and saga literature, produces physiological responses that promote deep sleep through enhanced circulation and the natural temperature drop that occurs after heat exposure. The social dimensions of Viking physical activity added psychological benefits that further enhanced sleep quality. Much work was conducted in groups with songs, stories, and competitive elements that made the activity enjoyable rather than merely necessary. Modern research has shown that social exercise produces greater sleep benefits than solitary activity, likely through enhanced mood and reduced stress hormones that can interfere with sleep. The seasonal rhythm of Viking physical activity aligned naturally with changing sleep needs throughout the year. Winter months brought reduced daylight and harsh weather that naturally decreased activity levels, allowing for the extended sleep periods that northern populations require during dark months. Summer brought increased daylight and favorable weather that supported higher activity levels while providing the bright light exposure needed to maintain healthy sleep cycles during short nights. Most importantly, Viking physical activity was meaningful and purposeful rather than artificial exercise performed solely for health benefits. The satisfaction of creating beautiful ships, productive farms, and comfortable homes provided psychological benefits that enhanced the sleep-promoting effects of physical fatigue. This sense of meaningful accomplishment contributed to the peace of mind that characterizes truly restorative sleep. The Viking approach to mental and emotional preparation for sleep reveals sophisticated psychological strategies that promoted natural rest and recovery. Unlike modern cultures that often approach sleep with anxiety, optimization obsessions, and technological interventions, Viking psychological attitudes toward sleep created the mental conditions where rest could emerge naturally and effortlessly. The Hávamál, that ancient collection of Norse wisdom, reveals balanced attitudes toward sleep that avoided both the laziness that disrupts natural rhythms and the anxiety that prevents restful sleep. The unwise man is awake all night worrying about everything, he is worn out when morning comes, and his troubles are just as they were. This wisdom recognizes that excessive worry and rumination, the mental habits that characterize much modern insomnia, are counterproductive and self-defeating. Equally important, the Hávamál warned against excessive sleep. A man should not sleep all morning through, he who sleeps away his wealth will never win it back. This balanced perspective viewed sleep as a natural necessity to be respected but not indulged to excess, an attitude that prevented both sleep anxiety and sleep avoidance. The evening cognitive transition in Viking households created optimal mental conditions for sleep through structured activities that gradually shifted attention away from the day's concerns toward peaceful rest. Archaeological evidence reveals that longhouses were arranged to facilitate communal storytelling around the central hearth, with sleeping platforms positioned to allow household members to listen while lying in comfortable positions. Astrid, a woman of high standing in Uppsala whose wisdom was sought throughout the region, exemplified the Viking approach to evening mental preparation. As darkness settled over the household, she would guide the transition from active daily concerns to peaceful rest through carefully chosen stories, songs, and conversations that occupied the mind without stimulating anxiety or excitement. The storytelling tradition served multiple psychological functions that promoted sleep. Unlike modern evening entertainment that often involves interactive engagement with electronic devices, activities that stimulate alertness and suppress melatonin production, Viking evening stories required only passive listening that allowed the mind to gradually disengage from daily concerns while remaining pleasantly occupied. The content of evening stories was carefully selected to promote rather than disrupt peaceful sleep. Heroic sagas and mythological tales provided engaging narratives that captured attention without creating personal anxiety or requiring problem solving. The familiar, repetitive nature of many stories created a soothing mental rhythm similar to meditation practices that modern sleep researchers recommend for insomnia treatment. Viking spiritual beliefs about dreams and sleep created psychological conditions that welcomed rather than feared the transition to unconsciousness. Unlike later Christian influences that often characterized dreams as potential demonic influences to be feared, Norse culture viewed dreams as sources of wisdom, prophecy, and connection to divine guidance. The Gisla saga and Laxdæla saga contain numerous references to significant dreams that provided crucial information or guidance to their recipients. This positive cultural attitude toward dreaming meant that Vikings approached sleep with anticipation rather than anxiety, understanding that the unconscious hours might bring valuable insights or spiritual experiences. The Norse concept of wird, fate, provided psychological benefits for sleep through its emphasis on accepting the limits of personal control. This philosophical framework helped prevent the rumination and worry that characterize modern sleep disorders by encouraging acceptance of circumstances beyond individual influence while maintaining responsibility for appropriate action within one's sphere of control. Gisla saga provides a powerful example of how moral distress could disrupt sleep, describing how the hero's guilty conscience over his revenge killings led to severe insomnia and psychological torment. This literary example reveals sophisticated understanding of the relationship between mental peace and sleep quality, knowledge that Vikings applied in their emphasis on honor-based ethics and moral clarity. The community-based security systems that characterized Viking settlements provided psychological benefits for sleep through reduced individual vigilance requirements. Unlike modern suburban isolation where individuals must maintain personal alertness to potential threats, communal Viking living arrangements distributed security responsibilities across multiple household members, allowing each individual to relax more completely during sleep hours. Seasonal psychological adaptations helped Vikings maintain healthy sleep attitudes throughout the extreme variations of northern climates. Winter feast celebrations were strategically timed during the darkest periods to provide social support and positive anticipation that countered the psychological challenges of extended darkness. The cultural awareness of solstices and seasonal cycles created frameworks for understanding and accepting natural variations in sleep patterns and mood. The transformation from Viking-era sleep excellence to contemporary sleep disorders represents one of the most dramatic declines in human health and well-being in recorded history. Understanding this historical progression reveals not only why modern humans struggle with sleep but also illuminates the path back toward the natural rest that characterized our ancestors. The first major disruption to human sleep patterns began with the widespread adoption of artificial lighting in the 18th and 19th centuries. Gas lamps, followed by electric lighting, fundamentally altered humanity's relationship with darkness. What had been humanity's natural rhythm for millennia, activity during daylight, gradual wind down at sunset, sleep in complete darkness, was suddenly disrupted by the ability to extend daylight artificially. The Industrial Revolution compounded this disruption through the imposition of rigid work schedules that ignored natural circadian rhythms. Where Vikings had worked according to seasonal patterns and natural energy cycles, industrial workers were forced into standardized shifts that often conflicted with their biological programming. Night shift work, virtually unknown in Viking times, became commonplace despite its documented harmful effects on sleep architecture and overall health. The architectural revolution toward private bedrooms, while offering benefits in terms of personal space and hygiene, inadvertently destroyed the communal security that had supported peaceful sleep for millennia. The isolated bedroom, which modern culture considers natural and desirable, would have seemed psychologically distressing and potentially dangerous to Vikings accustomed to the protective presence of their household community. The rise of urban living further disconnected humans from the natural cycles that had regulated Viking sleep. City environments provided constant low-level stimulation through noise, light pollution, and social activity that made the deep quietude essential for restorative sleep increasingly difficult to achieve. The 24-hour city, celebrated as a triumph of modern civilization, created environments fundamentally hostile to natural sleep patterns. Dietary changes accompanying industrialization disrupted the nutritional support for healthy sleep that Vikings had enjoyed naturally. Processed foods, refined sugars, caffeine, and eating patterns that emphasized convenience over circadian alignment created internal conditions that worked against rather than supported natural sleep cycles. The shift toward sedentary lifestyles eliminated the natural physical fatigue that had made sleep not just desirable but necessary for Vikings. Office work, transportation by car rather than walking or rowing, and entertainment that required minimal physical effort left modern humans without the deep tiredness that promotes efficient sleep onset and maintenance. Perhaps most significantly, the medicalization of sleep transformed rest from a natural biological function into a problem requiring expert intervention. Where Vikings understood sleep as emerging naturally from proper living conditions, modern culture approaches sleep as a technical challenge requiring optimization, measurement, and often pharmaceutical intervention. The lessons embedded in Viking sleep practices offer practical pathways for modern humans seeking to restore natural, restorative rest. While we cannot fully recreate the environmental and social conditions that supported Viking sleep, we can apply their fundamental principles to contemporary life with remarkable effectiveness. Embracing flexible sleep patterns. Modern sleep medicine's rigid insistence on 8 consecutive hours of sleep often creates anxiety and frustration that undermines sleep quality. Understanding the natural biphasic pattern that characterized Viking sleep can liberate contemporary humans from unrealistic expectations while opening possibilities for more flexible, individually adapted sleep schedules. For modern applications, This might mean accepting and even welcoming natural midnight awakenings rather than treating them as sleep disorders. The quiet hour or two of gentle wakefulness that occurs naturally after 4 hours of sleep can become time for reading, meditation, journaling, or intimate conversation, activities that enhance rather than disrupt overall sleep quality. Creating darkness sanctuaries. The single most impactful change modern humans can make involves recreating the true darkness that supported Viking sleep. This requires more than simply turning off lights. It demands creating environments that block all sources of artificial illumination. Blackout curtains, eye masks, and the elimination of electronic devices from sleeping areas can help recreate the darkness conditions that allowed Viking melatonin production to follow its natural rhythm. Red spectrum lighting for necessary evening activities mimics the firelight that Vikings used without disrupting melatonin production. Nutritional timing and composition. The Viking pattern of finishing meals several hours before sleep remains one of the most effective strategies for improving sleep quality. Modern applications involve eating the day's largest meal earlier and avoiding substantial food intake within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime. Emphasizing the sleep-supporting nutrients that characterized Viking diets, omega-3 fatty acids from fish, tryptophan from high-quality proteins, complex carbohydrates from whole grains, and fermented foods that support neurotransmitter production, can provide the nutritional foundation for healthy sleep without requiring supplements or pharmaceutical interventions. Physical activity for natural fatigue. While modern life rarely provides the sustained physical demands that created Viking sleep-promoting fatigue, incorporating regular outdoor exercise can restore some of these benefits. Morning outdoor activity provides the light exposure essential for circadian rhythm maintenance while creating the physical tiredness that makes sleep desirable rather than elusive. Herbal support systems. The herbs that Vikings used for sleep support remain available and effective today. Valerian, chamomile, passionflower, and other traditional sleep herbs can provide gentle support for natural sleep processes without the dependency risks and side effects associated with pharmaceutical sleep aids. Community and security. While most modern humans cannot recreate communal sleeping arrangements, the principle of feeling secure and connected remains applicable. This might involve creating bedtime routines that include family connection, ensuring home security systems that reduce vigilance requirements, or even considering family sleeping arrangements that prioritize emotional security over conventional privacy expectations. Psychological approaches to sleep. Perhaps most importantly, adopting Viking attitudes towards sleep can eliminate the anxiety and optimization obsessions that often perpetuate sleep difficulties. Viewing sleep as a natural biological function that emerges from proper conditions, rather than a technical problem requiring management, can restore the mental peace essential for truly restorative rest. The most profound lesson from Viking sleep practices involves what modern sleep science might call the optimization paradox, the counterintuitive finding that the best sleep often occurs when people worry least about achieving it. Vikings achieved superior sleep not through conscious optimization efforts but through lifestyle conditions that naturally supported rest. This paradox challenges fundamental assumptions about health and wellness in contemporary culture. Modern approaches to sleep typically involve tracking, measuring, optimizing, and managing sleep through technological interventions and conscious effort. Viking sleep emerged naturally from integrated lifestyle factors that supported rather than forced optimal rest. The implications of this paradox extend beyond sleep to broader questions about human well-being and the relationship between conscious effort and natural health. Vikings achieved excellent sleep, robust physical health, and psychological resilience not through deliberate health interventions but through ways of living that aligned with rather than fought against human biological programming. The story of Viking sleep excellence offers more than historical curiosity or practical sleep advice. It provides a window into fundamental questions about human nature, technological progress, and the conditions that support flourishing life. The Vikings' natural, effortless sleep reflects a civilization in harmony with biological rhythms and environmental realities, while modern sleep disorders mirror our disconnection from these fundamental patterns. The archaeological evidence from longhouses scattered across the Viking world tells a consistent story: humans who lived in alignment with natural darkness cycles, seasonal variations, communal security arrangements, and physically demanding but meaningful work achieved sleep that modern humans can barely imagine despite our advanced sleep science and pharmaceutical interventions. Thorvald the shipbuilder, settling into his first sleep as the fire died to glowing embers, experienced something that transcends individual health outcomes. His effortless transition to restorative sleep reflected an entire way of being that supported human flourishing at the most fundamental level. The warm presence of his household around him, the pleasant fatigue in muscles that had shaped oak into seaworthy vessels, the natural darkness that triggered optimal melatonin production, and the psychological peace that came from meaningful work and moral clarity, these conditions created sleep that was not just restorative but profoundly satisfying. Modern humans, despite unprecedented technological capabilities and scientific understanding, have largely lost access to this fundamental aspect of human experience. Our sleep disorders, anxiety about rest, and dependence on pharmaceutical interventions to achieve what Vikings experienced naturally represent more than individual health problems. They reflect civilizational choices that have prioritized technological advancement over biological wisdom. Yet the Viking example offers hope rather than despair. Their sleep practices demonstrate that excellent rest emerges naturally from conditions that support rather than fight human biology. While we cannot return to Viking social structures or environmental conditions, we can apply their fundamental insights about darkness, community, physical activity, natural materials, verbal support, and psychological attitudes toward sleep. The path forward involves neither rejecting modernity nor romanticizing the past, but rather integrating ancient wisdom with contemporary knowledge to create conditions where natural sleep can flourish. The Vikings navigated by stars that still shine above us, lived according to biological rhythms that still govern our physiology, and understood truths about human nature that remain valid despite technological change. Their legacy in sleep, preserved in archaeological remains and saga literature, offers practical guidance for contemporary challenges while pointing toward broader possibilities for human flourishing. In reclaiming Viking sleep wisdom, we take steps not just toward better rest but toward ways of living that honor both human potential and biological reality. As the fire dies to embers in our modern homes, as darkness falls beyond our windows, as our bodies naturally prepare for the rest that evolution has programmed into our deepest biological rhythms, we can choose to align with rather than fight these ancient patterns. In doing so, we honor not just the sleep excellence of our Viking ancestors but our own fundamental human nature that yearns for the deep, restorative sleep that supports not just physical health but the full flourishing of human life. The Vikings achieved the best sleep in human history not through superior technology or conscious optimization, but through living in harmony with the biological and environmental conditions that naturally support human rest. Their example illuminates not just how to sleep better, but how to live in ways that support our deepest human needs and highest potentials. In their natural, effortless sleep lies a blueprint for reclaiming one of humanity's most fundamental and precious experiences.